welcome to another Monday Messy on the Jensory YouTube channel with me, Jen. I'm a special needs teacher if you're tuning in for the first time. Hello, you're very welcome. Now this week's theme is a space theme, so we're going to have lots of mystical, magical fun with all of the activities that we do this week. So we're going to kick off with a really lovely Monday Messy activity. I'm going to put the resource list up on the screen now before we can get started. So for today's Monday Messy, we're going to use some really lovely sensory bits and pieces to create a galaxy on our tray. Now, as always, we're using things that you will have in your cupboards at home most likely. If not, you can get them quite easily in your shop. So we're going to use today some icing sugar. I use icing sugar a lot for all kinds of different things. It's a brilliant sensory resource, and this is going to give us a chalky tactile substance to work with, which is something we haven't done yet. Optionally as well, I've got my Nesquik. This is again a really good mark making resource to line the bottom of a tray with and do some mark making with. Again, different flavours, and as always, taste safe. Now I've got my trusty tray. I've got a shallow one for this activity. You don't need a big deep tray like we do for some of the other Messy Monday activities. A shallow one is perfect for this one. So I've put my icing sugar and my Nesquik powder out here in little pots. I've also got a little pot of beads here. Now what these beads are going to do is create a bit of movement on our tray, which is just going to add a little bit more visual interest. Now I will say, as these beads are tiny, we've got to be aware of choking hazards. So if you've got children that are going to mouth things, beads are probably not the best thing to use. That being said, you can get really good like bouncy balls that will do the same thing. They do some really lovely neon colours in sort of party sections in supermarkets, so they're a bit bigger and won't be so much of a choking hazard. If you want something a bit bigger than that, ping pong balls are brilliant, and they just ricochet all over the tray and create a really lovely source of movement. These are just some chocolate stars that I found again in the baking section. Have a little rummage in the baking section. You can always find some like edible glitter and tiny little stars and anything that's going to create a really nice galaxy kind of scape for us. That's going to be really good. Now I've lined the bottom of my tray with a couple of pieces of black card. What that's going to do is create an instant contrast between the icing sugar and the black, which again is going to make it a bit more visually appealing. If you haven't got black cards, you can use a black bin bag actually. Just if you pull it tight, it'll create the same effect. What we're going to do now is sprinkle the icing sugar, and if you've got it, some of the Nesquik powder on top, and just do some lovely mark making. Now this again is another tactile thing that's going to build up the tactile profile of your learner. It's a chalky one, and that's again another tactile experience that we can give them. Now another added bonus of using icing sugar is that when you clap your hands together, it creates this beautiful cloud, which is really good for our space theme. So if you've got learners that are learning about their hands and learning how to clap them together and join them together in the midline, which is that line that runs right the way down the centre of our body, this is a really good way of encouraging that to create these big space clouds. So I'm going to go ahead and put the icing sugar and some of the Nesquik powder into the tray and do a little bit of mark making. You can then add in your beads or your ping pong balls or your baubles, whatever it is that you're using for movement, and they can swirl around in a lovely spiralling orbit. Something else that I did notice when doing it as well is that it creates a beautiful auditory sound when you're doing it, almost a little bit like a rocket taking off. So there's lots of key actions that we're looking for this activity. Again, it's our sprinkling one, which is a really, really lovely one for knowing where your fingers are and sprinkling. You've got a lovely sound when you move your hand in a kind of sweeping action as well, which is really great for our early developmental learners. It's great for isolating index fingers and doing some early mark making as well. If you want to use some paintbrushes in it as well, if you've got children or learners that are ready for pincer grip and early writing, you can use paintbrushes in it as well and sweep that way. So there it is, our lovely space-themed Monday Messy to broaden that lovely tactile profile that we're trying to provide for our learners. This is a really multi-sensory one. I'm getting loads of smell off the Nesquik. It's taste safe and it's got a really lovely visual element to it. So we're conquering lots of the senses with this one. So if you enjoyed the video today, please do give it a like down at the bottom here. The more engagement I get with this, the more learners that I can reach, and that's what this is all about. So thank you in advance. I will see you for a very special planet-themed Wednesday Wow on Wednesday. But until then, take care and I will see you then. Bye, everybody.